Welcome to the Traceless podcast, a podcast dedicated to teaching and inspiring women to walk with Jesus through the fiery trials of life. I'm your host, Jess, and I am so excited for today's special guest, my sister and bestie, Sheena Capps-Auffant. Welcome
Hi,
to
sister.
the podcast.
Yay.
This is so surreal. I'm so glad that
I'm
you're here.
so honored. I'm so privileged. I'm inspired by your story. And I kind of said it the other day. I was like, you're my hero. Like, truly.
No, you are mine. Just so everybody knows, we are in your home. This is not like a studio that I rented. You have just been so generous to let us do this in your beautiful home. And for those that don't know who you are, number one, you are just a woman of God, believer through and through. You have this amazing business, Jordan Joelle, where you do interior design, styling, new builds, all of this. So everything that you see here is fully curated by Sheena. And I know we're going to get into a little bit more about you, but let's talk about how we know each other, because I think that's kind of fun.
Yeah, we go back really far.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
You just didn't become my friend when you
No.
became my sister-in-law.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we were friends before I dated your brother. Hey, do you remember when I told you that I was talking to your brother, what you told me?
Well, not only do I remember that, but also the first encounter. Okay, so they'll hear my story later,
Yeah.
but I had gotten married and it was
I know what you're going to say, yes.
It was a very intimate wedding.
Yes.
There was no reception. There was a dessert reception. Yep. And my brother was there and you were there.
Yes.
And all I remember is me and a couple of our friends at the time at my wedding just staring at you because you and Everett
were in our own little world talking.
As if no one else was there, talking for, I think, like the whole time. And so we were like, what is happening? But I didn't know you knew my brother. I didn't know that part of the story yet.
Yeah. We had crossed paths here and there, like, throughout high school and when I graduated. But you need to say what you told me when I was like, hey, like, good news. I like your brother.
This was after he rededicated his life to the Lord.
Yeah, for context.
After he was baptized, and I said, you're too good for him.
Yes.
Sorry, Every. Sorry, I love.
At the time, you were kind of right.
I said
actually.
this is not the right time.
Yeah, you're like, no, you're not going to date my brother.
Yeah, let the man get established a little bit in his heart with Jesus.
Yes. So let's just say you have been quite literally mentoring me for over a decade. But yeah, we're more than just like in-laws. We really are best friends.
We don't even use like that term.
No.
In-laws or in-love.
No.
We just say, like, people fully believe you're my sister.
Yeah.
And I'm fully okay with that.
Yeah. I just want to share a little bit about the way I viewed you before.
Listen, I am not going to cry within the first 5 minutes of this podcast.
No, we forgot to get tissues, but we just got to, No, so I remember, going to youth, seeing you lead our youth ministry alongside your then husband, Dave, who was our youth pastor. I was in and out of church, and then as a young adult, I remember being like, okay,
How old were you when you started coming?
Like 16, 17. Okay. But then when I really gave, I was like, okay, I'm going to dedicate my life to this. I was like 18, 19.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going up to you. I don't even know if you remember this, but I pulled you to the side. I was like, hey, I'm really intimidated by you.
I was like, no, not me.
Why? So anyway, that's just like a little bit of our origin story. Now, here we are in our 30s. A lot of life
Yeah.
lived. You were actually the first person that I had on my Traceless sessions, is what I called it
Mm-hmm.
back then.
And man, have we grown since then.
No kidding. Like, I think about, we were just talking about this before, but like, I really just had no idea the fire that I would
Yeah.
go through when I came up with this concept.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was like, I'm going to interview other women
Yeah.
who have gone through
That
the
was your
fire
mindset. Yeah.
and like let's be inspired by other women. But I never thought like, oh, I'm also going to go through the ringer, so to speak. But um so there's a lot we're going to talk about today, but I would love for you to just tell us a little bit about like who you are, what you do. um you know, just you have an incredible story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I am a mom
Yes.
to 2 girls.
Yep. Girl mom.
I'm a wife. I am a pastor,
Yep.
recently ordained at our
Mm-hmm.
church. I'm an interior designer, so that's what I do for a living, and I love it. I love seeing things redeemed and
Yeah.
things turned around.
Yeah.
But I'm also like,
It's a theme in your life.
it is a theme in my life. It's interesting. This is like a cool fact. But Sheena in Hebrew means God is gracious,
Yeah.
and Anne in Hebrew means grace.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always said, like, I have double grace on my life.
Yep.
And it's kind of
No, it's so
been
true.
shown in my life as well. Like,
Yeah.
I've had to,
You need grace to walk through the things
I've
you've
needed
walked
so
through.
much grace.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been possible without it. But also, I am surrounded, because I've been in the same church now for about 25 years.
Yeah.
The same church we go to, the
Yep.
same church we pastor in.
Mm-hmm.
And, my story is just unique and different, but I wasn't raised as a PK.
Yeah.
Neither were you.
No.
But our church family has truly, and I think you could say the same thing, like adopted me, that I do feel like it.
Yeah.
I do feel like that the legacy, because
Yeah.
that's really what's important about a PK.
Yeah.
It's the legacy,
Yeah.
really. And I feel like the legacy of our leaders and of our founders and of our
Yeah.
pastors,
It's your legacy
it's
now.
my legacy now.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
The journey that I see us going on in this conversation is I kind of want to break things up into like 3 pillars of your story, and just have a conversation around it. But I think one big pillar of your story is your grief journey. You experienced loss, and then you experienced redemption. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
yeah. So I met my first husband when I was 14 when I met him, but we didn't start dating until I was 15, and he was a little older than me, like a little bit. And at the time, he was the assistant youth pastor. And so there was lots of things we had to walk through with that. But met him in church. I got married super young. I was 19 years old.
You were a baby.
I was such a baby.
You were a child
I
bride.
was a child bride. Like, truly a child bride. And I look back and I'm like, what the heck was I thinking?
Yeah.
Like, what was I? First of all, I look older too.
You've like aged backwards.
I feel like that.
Yeah,
I
you
feel like
have.
that. So, got married at 19.
Uh-huh.
And then we started immediately. We got married in March. And then in April, quickly took over the youth ministry at our church. And super happy.
Yeah.
We just loved life. We had a lot of dreams.
To look forward to, yeah.
We loved the church, loved serving in the church. I actually quit my job just to be able to attend the youth group on time.
Yeah.
And ended up working in the school at the church. And then I was 20 years old when he was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, extremely rare cancer. But simultaneously, 2 months later, found out I was pregnant with our first child.
Yeah.
And then fast forward, he battled 2.5 years with cancer. and then passed away when our child was 18 months and I was 22 years old. So child bride felt like I lived just in 2.5 years.
Yeah.
I
You lived a
lived
lifetime.
I lived a full lifetime.
Yeah.
And then till death do us part
Yeah.
was a reality.
Yep.
And he passed in 2010 when I was 22.
That's we're gonna dive a little bit
Yeah.
more into that. But can you tell us about the next chapter that you ended up
Yes.
going into?
Yeah, so the next chapter, I mean, I was so young, so I knew I was going to meet somebody.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted that for my daughter.
Yeah.
I was raised in a broken family.
Yep.
So I had, I mean, you know my story,
Yeah.
but I never that was like my fleece. I was
Yes.
like, I will never be a single mom.
Yeah.
I was raised by a single mom.
Yeah.
And so that was like a big fear of mine,
Yeah.
raising my daughter now. So 3 years later, fast forward, and I marry not just any man, but like a man, young man that I knew
Yeah.
since I was 14 years old.
Yeah.
Like he grew up in the church
He
with us.
ran with the same circle
He
of
ran
people.
with the same circle of people.
Little younger.
2 years younger than me.
Mm-hmm.
But married him. And then I think it was 13. It was actually like 4 or 5 years later. We got pregnant and had a little girl named Adelaide. So it was almost like my life kind of repeated.
I know.
But it went from tragedy and loss to just beauty and redemption.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, this mystery man's name is Juan.
This mystery man's name is Juan.
He's amazing.
He's amazing.
He's
and
really,
let me tell you,
really
he's had
cool.
a glow up. Because if we want to talk about, like, if we want to be real on this podcast, I loved him then when we dated. I loved him then because he was participating in the things that I wanted in a man.
Yeah.
Like he was there and present. He was present in what
it was a
I
no-brainer.
wanted.
Yeah. Yeah. I came into the picture similarly to when Juan did. So that's kind of the life that I've known is you with Juan. And he's literally one of my best friends.
I know.
He's amazing. And
he would
we've
be
just
here.
done a lot of life together.
Like he would want to be a part of this convo.
I know.
In this chat.
He's like, please let me say something on the microphone.
Yeah.
So, okay. So that's one pillar. And we're going to dive more into that grief process, right?
Yeah.
The valley, I think is what I like to call it. But then you also have this journey of waiting and faith. You do have a gift of faith, like an actual spiritual gift of faith. Some people are gifted in discernment or wisdom or prophecy. You really do walk in the gifting of faith. And I've watched you walk in that. But you are very familiar with waiting. And I would say it kind of has to tie into your business. So do you want to kind of give us context for that before we talk through that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I worked and kind of worked my way up in the school at our church. So I went from being just an assistant and an aide to a teacher to a director.
Yeah.
And
all of which have nothing to do at first glance with interior design.
No, none of it did. None of it did. However, what I did do was I did a lot of collaborating and creating these like massive shows and programs.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with interviews, the interview process of welcoming families, which that ties into my business.
Yep.
And I also fell in love with the aesthetic and the environment.
Yeah, making a certain type of environment.
Like my room, I look back at pictures and I was like, oh my God, my room was like legit. Yeah. Like I spent a lot of time on that. Yeah. So I worked at the school for 12 years. Okay. And I remember feeling torn of like the grace is lifting. Yeah. And I knew I needed to do something different.
Yeah,
I didn't
just
know.
Had a baby.
I just had a baby.
Yep.
And I had kind of like told our leadership 2 years prior to having the baby that I was like,
hey, this is going to come.
The season's going to change a little bit. And I didn't know what that was going to look like.
Yeah.
And so walked through some fire
Mhm.
right after I had my
Yes.
daughter,
Yeah.
some unexpected fire,
Yes. You
some
went through some
sudden
things.
fire,
Yes.
and I had zero control over it.
Yep.
Truly had to like believe that God was my defender in it all.
Yes. Yes.
And it was in that moment where I kind of felt like I lost it all and I was starting all over,
Hmm.
where I was sitting in a room similar to this,
Mhm.
like quiet in a chair by myself. I think Adelaide was napping,
Mm.
and I just felt an immediate like word from heaven,
Yeah.
and it dropped in my spirit, and it was a business.
Yeah.
First of all, my husband, probably months prior to that, was like, "What if you start a business?"
And
And
he's very entrepreneurial.
yes,
Like he's very business minded.
yes, and I flat out said, "I will never
Yeah.
start a business, and I will never be a business owner."
Yeah.
Like, it's just for me, I just thought I have zero. I am not qualified. I'm the least
Mm.
qualified.
Mhm.
I have no business
Yeah.
starting a business
Yeah.
or being a business owner.
Yeah.
And so it was in that moment where kind of felt like I'm starting over, and I lost everything,
Yeah.
where God dropped the name and kind of the purpose for my next season.
And how long has it been now? Has it
It'll be
6 years?
6 years this
6
November.
years of it feels like just yesterday that we
I
did your
know.
launch party and
I
you
know.
started this business, and it really you have found a lot of success with it. It's um for a period of time that's all you and Juan were doing full time was
Yes.
Jordan and Joelle, and
Yep.
so it's amazing to see how far you've come with that.
And the Lord gave me my business name
Yeah.
within that one moment.
Yes.
And he gave me the 3 pillars of the business.
We're gonna come back to that because
Yeah.
listen, I'm
That's
so
so
excited.
good.
Listen, I'm warming up for where we're gonna go.
Yeah, it's
You know
good.
where we're gonna
It's
take this
good. It's
podcast
all
in the
God,
next
but it's good.
20-ish minutes.
Yeah.
You guys just put your seatbelts on. But I'm setting the foundation because I want people to have context for who you are
Yeah.
so that they understand when we share wisdom. I really want to say that it comes from a place of experience
Yes.
and authority.
Yeah.
You do have authority in these areas because you have
And
suffered.
to be honest, I've seen God do too much. I've seen him do
Come
too
on.
much to
Come
not
on.
believe and to not believe for big things.
Yeah.
Like, I've just seen too much.
So the last pillar that I think, obviously, you are an incredible person. So much makes up who you
I'm
are.
not going to do it. I'm
But
not going to cry. I'm going to hold it
but
together.
the last pillar, I will say, that's just so on theme with Traceless is this sisterhood like warrior that you are. I know I have talked to so many of our friends. All of us, if we did like a little raise your hand or point to the person who this describes, everyone would agree that you are the friend that we call when crap hits the fan at 2 a.m. And I say that because there have been literal stories of people calling you being like, Sheena, my life is falling apart. This just happened. I need you to show up for me. And you literally drop everything and you do that. So I'm already crying
I'm
too.
crying. I'm about to
Because
lose it.
you have shown up for me on my darkest days, plural, because there have been several the last 6 years where
I have to stop you though, because I feel
Sheena.
like if people are watching and they're like, who is this person who just seems so, got it all together? I don't have it all together. But what I will say is the reason why I'm able to do that is because I've seen God extend it to me.
Yes.
Like way too many times.
Yeah.
And it would be foolish of me not to extend what he's given me
No, you do that.
to people.
You do that. And I think that's why people trust you is like, okay, she has been through some of her own junk and things have happened to her that are unimaginable. So that's who I need in this moment because I need a sliver of hope and faith that I'm going to get through this. I mean, I'll never forget just one time, you telling me, you were ministering to me about my marriage. My marriage was going through a very rough time about 6 years ago. And I I just was ready to throw in the towel. Like it felt like an impossible situation. And you were like, I know that you don't have the faith, but I have the faith for you. And that is literally who you have been for me through that season in my marriage, through this infertility journey for me. And I know if I know all our friends would show up in the comments and just say the same thing. But okay, so there we have grief pillar, we have the waiting and faith pillar, and then we have this sisterhood pillar. And I I just want to open up the floor for us to have a conversation and preach to the
Yeah.
people that are
Let's do
watching
it.
and listening, and just let's give them some um like gold nuggets of
Yeah.
wisdom that they can take and put in their back pocket for a rainy day. You know, this is the part of the podcast that if you're able to maybe take a couple of notes.
Yes.
Because this is the part where I really do feel like we're gonna
I'm so
answer some
ready.
things for you. We want to encourage you today. So I think number one, let's discuss the importance of the valley season. I'm gonna cry again because there is value to suffering.
So much value.
There,
So much
it
purpose.
teaches us something. There is a dependence on Christ that is
Absolutely.
built. And so I have my stories, but I would love to hear yours first and just hear,
Well, first of
yeah,
all,
what's the importance of it?
you know, Joel 3:14. And when I kind of recalled this scripture, it reminded me of truly what a valley is.
Yeah.
Like what a valley is, what it's supposed to be. The valley was never intended, nor is it intended to ever be a destination.
Yeah, it's not our home.
That is not your home.
Yeah.
You may have to camp out there longer than you think.
Yeah.
But it was never intended, and God has a plan to get you through.
Yes, so good.
And so in Joel 3:14, it says, multitudes in the valley of decision. For the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. So when I think about the valleys that I've experienced, the valleys you've experienced, it's full of decision making.
Yeah.
You have a choice to make when you are confronted with a fire, when you are confronted with suffering, when you're confronted with pain. You have to make a decision.
Yeah.
Either I'm going to live here and look down at what I am camped in or what I'm staying in or what I'm situated in.
Yeah.
Or you have the opportunity to look forward. The Bible also says that he's the lifter of our heads, to look up, because actually there's so much beauty in the valley if you shift your perspective. And so for me, I have so many valley moments, like so many. But when I was thinking about even what, like, I think you said this in your first podcast, but like what Traceless means and what it stands for, and the context for Traceless is about Daniel.
Yeah.
Is about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And this story is so vulnerable to me because it's about my first husband. But I remember thinking about that story. I'm taken back to like, these men not only were brave for years to live basically in a foreign land, but to make decisions along the way that was true to them and what they believed.
Yeah. Countercultural.
Yeah. They still stood the test and kept the faith.
Yep.
And then when they were, when that moment of bowing down to that idol, to that, statue, I can't imagine the faith that it took to say what they said. Yeah. And to do what they did.
Like the even if declaration.
Like the faith that it took to say, though, that God will rescue us.
Yeah, he's very much capable of getting me out of this.
Yes.
But even if he doesn't.
I'm
still going to go through it.
I'm still going to go through with it.
Yeah.
And so I remember when my first husband was sick, we had already crossed, some difficult things with doctors. There was nothing more they could do
Hmm.
for his type of cancer. So we were kind of stuck at home waiting for either for him to be healed and for God to do the work that we have been praying for, or for a miracle to happen
Yeah.
by him entering his permanent residence in heaven.
Yeah.
So those were the two options. There were
Yeah.
no other options here. And I remember feeling so full of faith that the 2.5 years that I walked with him, of just believing that God will do a miracle. And we saw crazy miracles.
Yeah.
The doctor even said, the last appointment that we had, when my husband asked how much time I have left, he said, I can't answer that. He said, because if you asked me 2.5 years ago, I would have given you 3 months.
Wow.
So he lived 2.5 years and battled this.
Wow.
But when I think about that moment, that valley moment, and that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego moment, full of faith, I was like, we're going to see a miracle.
Yeah.
We are.
Yeah.
Called his parents.
Yeah. You
Started-
weren't afraid to believe
I was not
for the
afraid.
supernatural to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Called his parents and said, we're going to believe for this. We're going to act on it. We're going to prepare the way for it. And praying in the spirit, I told my husband, I said, get up and walk. And I have to set it up and say that I think, and I'm almost positive, that at the time he knew
Yeah.
what his destination was.
Yes.
And he knew he was going to heaven.
Yeah.
But he still honored my faith and got up and walked.
And I think we were talking about this beforehand, but it's so funny in the valley, what the Lord asks you to do out of obedience. It sometimes makes no sense.
I felt in that moment, I was like, okay, I have a decision to make. I'm either going to be made the biggest fool.
Right.
Or this is going to be the
Yeah.
biggest miracle that I've ever witnessed in my life.
Yeah.
And I was okay and perfectly fine to be made a fool because I still knew that God could do it.
But can I just say, in man's eyes, they would say, oh, you were made to be a fool because he wasn't healed. He
That's
didn't
right.
get the
Yeah.
miracle. But God counted your faith as righteous. And you are blessed because you walked that faith out. Your faith, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego's faith, was not determined on the outcome.
That's right.
God just wanted to know, are they going to be obedient?
Yeah.
And you were obedient. And that taught you a foundational lesson that has shaped your character and who you have been to this day and who you have been for others. And can I just piggyback off your story now and share our Lily story, because it's our story.
Yeah.
I started to share it last podcast, and I was like,
I do have to say this, though. I have to say this because it's like that story is so vulnerable.
Yes.
That people who are watching may be like, okay, but like now what? Like, what did you do now? It didn't happen. And I would say that it made a way for me to witness even more miracles and testimonies. And it pushed me to truly like make a decision. I had to make a decision in the valley, and I've seen it time and time again.
But can I say that your obedience years later directly impacted me in my lack of faith? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you know how I'm like in my mind, I'm tethering it and it's making sense to me. Like, oh, that was formed, like fortified in Sheena, in her spirit all those years ago. And that's why she was able to hold space for me in this difficulty. But yeah, I shared a little bit last time about the miscarriage that I experienced. And
what you didn't share, though, was it actually happened on our vacation.
Yeah.
You told us you were pregnant.
Yes.
And then you miscarried on our vacation.
And the whole time I was just like, okay, God, I'm going to believe.
Yeah.
Like, I'm remembering it now. Like, I'm going to believe that you can do a miracle. Like,
You had to make a decision.
yeah, like either because when you start to miscarry, you still have to go and get like a blood test
Yeah.
to confirm the pregnancy, several blood tests, then where they come back and say, yes, your levels are declining, or actually no, like you're stable and you might be able to continue to carry this pregnancy. It might be viable. So I was waiting for the actual phone call that was going to tell me that I miscarried. And so I was waiting in faith. Honestly, I was just like, God, like you were talking about, like, I'm either gonna look like a fool or God, you're gonna show up.
Yeah.
And I remember just literally saying, God, like I believe that you can do anything. Like if you allow this pregnancy to continue, like I know you would do that. So then I get the call that I've miscarried. I'm just beside myself, like fully just honestly kind of shocked.
You were
Like
shocked.
I was shocked
You were
because
expecting a positive.
yeah, I was like,
pregnancy.
this is gonna turn out. Like I've just felt like, God, why would you ask me to have so much faith
Yeah.
if it's not gonna work out?
Yeah.
And I remember telling you, and you're like, I'm on my way over, like immediately. And you're like, I'm gonna get you things, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, that's fine, but I like just don't feel like I can see
You said,
anybody
I don't
right
want to see
now.
anybody.
I'm like, you can drop stuff off at my doorstep, but like I don't really want you to come inside. And
I think I was careful to even say,
yeah,
I'm going to come see you. I think I said, I want to drop something off
yes,
to you.
you were. And I remember I'll never forget, because like you walked to the door, left it, and I cracked the door open and you were about to get into your car. And I was like,
You
okay,
said,
come in.
You can come inside.
You can come inside. And you're like, okay. You come in and you got me flowers and ice cream. And I remember you got me a little card that said, remember the lilies. And so you and I were just praying. And by the way, my husband was working at the time.
Yeah.
So he wasn't like available, which was also very hard because I'm processing this by myself.
Yeah.
And
he was out of town working.
And yeah, so I'm here just praying, and you and I start to pray, and I don't know how to explain it other than it was supernatural. So a few weeks earlier, Adelaide, your youngest daughter, told me that I was going to have a girl and I was going to name her Flower. Like I'll never forget it because it was just so silly and cute. And she's adorable.
She was like 4.
Oh my gosh, I love her so much. And I remember you praying over me, and I went, oh my gosh, I know what the name of the baby is that I miscarried. And I know that might sound weird to some people, but I've learned that from Pastor Janice, and from you, like to name the baby when you lose it, it truly brings healing.
It brings in a sense, an acknowledgement of
like this was life that lived
mm-hmm.
inside of me.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going, oh my gosh, Sheena, I know what the baby's name is. And I was like, her name is Lily. And
this was after the moment of us dropping the flowers off.
Yes.
After the moment you found out you miscarried.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, her name is Lily. Because I'm looking at the flowers that you got me, the lilies. And I began to like, because it's that scripture that God cares for the lilies. He cares for the flowers of the field, and how much more will he care for you? And he cares for the flowers that nobody sees.
Yeah. Yeah.
No one will ever see her. Mm-hmm. No one, not on this side of heaven.
Mm-mm.
And but God cares about her. And it was just like that intimate knowing from God was what got me through that season. Like, I am so known by God right now. And that is what this valley season is teaching me. So,
and I think that moment of even being bold to say I'm going to drop things off. I didn't even know what I was dropping off at the
Yeah.
time when I said that.
Yeah.
I just knew
Yeah. I
I've
know.
been in the darkest valley.
Yep.
And you can say things, but in reality, you want to be surrounded.
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah.
Like in the moment you don't.
Yeah.
But when your people show up, it's like
what I need.
It's what you needed.
Yeah, it's what I needed.
And I had no idea. I remember it was those valley moments we just talked about of me telling my husband, get up and walk, and believing for a miracle and having the faith it was that moment that caused me to say, okay, I don't know what I'm getting.
Yeah.
I know she needs something.
Yeah.
Walked into Sam's and was like, Holy Spirit, lead me to what I need to get for her. And who knew that like it would be an imagery for you?
Yeah. No, it really, and I honestly, as weird as it sounds, believe that strengthened my faith so much that it prepared me for the season of infertility that I've been walking through.
Yeah.
And that is something that only the valley can teach you.
Yeah.
All that to say that the valley is such a crucial part of our journeys.
And if you've never seen, like, I kind of want to encourage them and that are watching, like, if you've never had a picture of what a valley looks like, just look it up right now.
Yeah.
Look up the picture. Just put Google Valley.
Yeah.
It is the most beautiful thing you've ever seen.
Yeah.
But when you're in the middle of it, like I have a picture of when we went to Yosemite and it was getting real dark and there was no service.
Yep.
And we had to remember our steps to get back to the car. And we were in the middle of a valley and the noises are louder. You're surrounded by all kinds of things you can't see at nighttime.
Yes.
And so, however, when you shift your perspective though, and you just
it can
look
be a
ahead
very beautiful season.
and you look up,
it
can.
No, it's one of the most intimate, beautiful ways that God has ever spoken to me. And I hope that would encourage someone. I know we have a couple more points before we land the plane. So maybe I knew that first one was going to go deep really quick. But I would love to hear from you as someone who hears from God. You know, I also believe you have a gift of the prophetic in many ways, and God has told you things, and then you've had to wait for it to come to pass. How do you keep your hope? How do you maintain accountability?
Yeah.
You know, we talked about J&J and your gift of faith. I encourage someone who right now is like, God has literally told me these things about my future. I know that he's promised me this, but I do not see any signs of that happening.
Yeah.
How do you encourage someone to
Well,
continue?
The biggest thing that I've learned is God doesn't waste anything. There's no season that's wasted.
Yeah.
Everything has a purpose. And so if you feel like in the race, you're still at like mile marker 1.
Oh, girl.
You know?
Let's talk about the race.
Like if you're still there, my encouragement to you would be keep going.
Yes.
Don't quit.
Yeah.
Don't get tired.
Yeah.
Don't, camp out there and say, well, if I'm going to be here or if this isn't going to work out, let me take a detour. Don't take a detour.
Wait, I'm sorry. You have to unpack that a little bit more, because that is so true that when we get really exhausted and tired of waiting.
I know, I did races.
I know that.
I ran in the sand one time and didn't even know that it was going to be on a beach in sand.
You're what you are alluding to is that there is temptation.
Oh yeah.
To walk away.
Yep.
To allow distraction to get you off of the mission.
The mission and the path that God has for you. Don't take a detour.
What does a detour look like?
A detour could be, for instance, for Jordan and Joelle, I knew it was birthed by God. I knew that it was from God.
Yeah.
I couldn't have made it up. I'm not qualified to do it.
Right.
I don't have a
You're like, I'm not
degree.
that creative.
I'm not that creative. And I remember it being so difficult for the
Mm.
first 5 years.
Mm.
And I remember contemplating, okay, I'm going to do this while I'm waiting over here for Jordan and Joelle to just, get a little bit more steam.
Yeah. Maybe I'll try this thing out.
Maybe I'll try this thing out.
Yeah.
I applied at places I would never apply at and was literally like rejected. Like places that like my
Are so big. Can I
my
just say are
16-year-old could get a job there.
Yeah,
And
yes.
And
yes.
I tried to take detours and I tried to make it a little easier.
Yeah.
I tried to make it easier for God. Let's be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
I wasn't.
Okay, God, this is taking a little bit longer
Yeah.
than we wanted to. So here's my plan. Here's
Yeah.
what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
We can take this little detour.
And what I did, like when I think about your story, like the Lily story, when I think about the fires you've gone through, the fires that I've gone through, what I really did, because this is what you're doing when you're on your race, when you know what God has for you. You don't know how long it's going to take.
Yeah.
You don't know the things you're going to go through.
Yeah.
The trek you're going to have to trek.
Yes.
You don't know what it looks like.
It's the unknown.
It's the unknown. And what I did in those moments is I let God's hand go and decided to take my own path.
And that's
so
how you know.
That's how you know.
Yeah, that's how you know you've stepped out.
Yeah.
I really was not expecting you to take it there. So I'm processing because I'm feeling all kinds of convicted.
Yeah.
Because it's been a long journey of trying to conceive, as I've said a million times.
Yeah.
But there have been so many temptations to just throw in the towel, to say, okay, like when I say that we've done fertility treatments, that actually was so out of my control. That was not in my plan. That was not something that I wanted to go through or to do.
Jess's fingerprint was not on it.
Not in any way. Can I tell you, Jess 6 years ago, at the thought of doing something like IVF, would have literally had so much anxiety. And then to say that I'm going to do IVF abroad, it's nuts. But I just, God staying on the path has opened up this world to me that I just, I never knew. I never knew this was going to be my race. But talking about endurance, I will say, my turn to be a little vulnerable. When we had an embryo transfer, our second embryo transfer fail this past December. I got the news. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, okay, this actually is awful, because this means that we're about to go into my husband's busy travel season. And we're not going to get to go back to Colombia again to do something like this until like the end of next summer.
Yeah, you're thinking of the timeline.
I'm thinking of the timeline. And I just remember accepting I will not give birth to a baby in 2025. Like I
remember you saying that.
Like this is the reality that is in front of me. My race all of a sudden just got longer. Like I thought I was running.
And you didn't sign up for that one.
A 5K.
You didn't sign up for that race.
And now I'm running like, what is it? A marathon? How long is a
10K.
marathon?
I mean, you could go from 5K to a 10K.
I feel like I'm running whatever those races are where it's like through the night.
Yeah, that's a marathon.
And they have to chew on those like gross, disgusting things, and weird things happen to their body. That's how I feel. Like, oh my gosh, I have to run this race a lot longer than I had mentally prepared for. And what I will say is that counseling has been a huge blessing for me. I have been very intentional My counselor is incredible. And recently I told her, like, oh my gosh, I have this second wind in this race. And I thought I was going to be dragging myself across the finish line of this fertility journey. But somehow, by the grace of God, I feel stronger than ever, more peace than ever, that I am going to finish this race well. And I don't know if you can speak into that. Like, it's just wild.
Yeah.
It's just wild.
Well, anybody can start anything. Let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun. It's
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah.
It's thrilling. It's something new. Everyone's drawn to the new thing, right?
Yeah.
Finishing is hard.
Say that again.
Finishing is hard.
Yes, it is.
Finishing is really hard.
Yeah. Finishing well.
Finishing well.
Like, if God has told you that He has babies for you, if God has told you that He has a promise for you, He is faithful.
Yeah.
He is faithful.
Yeah.
And I have watched Him do that in so many other areas of my life. I've watched Him do it in your life. And I think that's another part of keeping the faith is like, you will get very discouraged and hopeless if you don't have other women and a community of people that you are leaning on and looking to.
Yeah. I mean, I taught our Connect class last Sunday, and it's the very thing that I told them is I said, if I did not have the community I had, I don't know where I would be.
I think this is the perfect segue for us to begin to land the plane and land on sisterhood, because it just perfectly goes into that. But, you know, I think for the women watching, there is something, it actually like is a pet peeve of mine sometimes. I'm just going to be honest. When someone says that they don't have friends.
I know. I know. I know.
Because it has so little to do with others and everything to do with you and your intentionality to pursue people.
It's not convenient.
It is not convenient.
It's not convenient. So be prepared to be inconvenienced.
But I mean, not to toot my own horn, but Sheena, if you were to call me at 10 a.m. on a Friday morning, where would I be?
Pickleball.
No! I got caught.
I got caught.
I thought she was gonna take it spiritual, and she called me out. She called me out. I'm dying. Okay, take two, Sheena.
Okay, spending time with Jesus.
No.
What do you? If I were to call you on Friday at 10 a.m., where would you be?
Having coffee with someone at Vanessa's.
Okay, that's true. But sometimes it's not 10 a.m. Let's be real. Like you have a plan on Fridays.
Yes.
And you have time with the
But
Lord.
I'm dying. Yes.
You have time with the Lord. You typically play pickleball early.
Yes.
And then you'll have
workout. Yeah.
Then you fill your Fridays up.
But sometime on Friday, I'm having coffee with somebody.
Yes. You're always intentional.
And so are you. But to my point is, we can make time.
Yeah.
And
we can find time. Yeah.
For what we need.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're like watching this and you're like, oh my gosh, that's so good for them. But I don't have a Sheena in my life.
Yeah.
I don't have a Jess in my life.
Yeah. Where do you find these people? In church?
In church. Yeah. First of all, if you're not in church, that's
a local church is so important.
It's so important.
It's so important.
And not just like attending and sitting in the back row and leaving.
No, participating.
Like fully participating in church.
Present.
Guess what? That does mean serving. That does mean showing up to events and being a part of things. I'm not trying to plug anything, but it's just the truth. It's what we've built our lives upon. Yeah. It's our values. Yep. And
it's going to stretch you. It's going to stretch your capacity.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm still dying that you said pickleball.
But let's be honest. So let's be honest. It'd probably be pickleball first.
Yeah,
and then
she's like, Jesus, pickleball, then sisterhood.
No, for real.
Yeah,
For
no,
real.
but priorities. But yeah, my point
We
is
live in
like,
Florida,
yeah.
so you playing pickleball at noon is not
No, it's
what's
not
going to
gonna
happen.
happen. No, I need to play early.
Yeah.
But I've said this before, but I just have some incredible, we both have some
Mhm.
incredible friends. Like, I remember before my husband and I left for Colombia for 3 weeks, we were going to be there to do our egg retrieval. All my friends came over,
They
like
sure
literally the
did.
night before we flew out.
Yeah.
And there's literally a picture right here on the shelf,
Yeah.
but it's of all of you guys just laying hands on us and praying over us. And, you know, that was not built overnight.
No.
That was not built overnight.
No.
So for someone to watch this and be like, ugh, that's impossible. I'm not going to have that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, invite somebody to coffee.
Yeah.
Invite someone that annoys you to
Yeah.
coffee.
Yeah.
Invite
It's
a
true.
girl that you're jealous of
That's
to
true.
coffee.
That's true.
Invite someone that you're
That's good.
intimidated by to coffee. And you would be
That's
so
so good.
surprised what comes out of a
Yeah.
conversation with someone when you just take the time to listen. And it's just so rewarding to our lives,
Yeah.
and it gives us so much. And that's the message of Traceless.
Mhm.
That's a theme on your life. It's why it's so obvious that you would be my first person to be on
I'm
the
honored.
podcast.
I'm truly
It's
honored.
just, it's who you are. You have taught me so much of these principles. And I'm excited for women to receive from everything that you shared
Yeah.
today, and I would love if we took a moment, if you would take a moment to just look into the camera, encourage someone, and to pray over
Yeah.
anyone who listens to this podcast, you know, anyone who might be walking through grief or
Yes.
through a valley season, anyone who's struggling to keep the faith, anyone who feels lonely and like they don't have that sisterhood.
Yeah.
I believe that you're going to impart something today.
Yeah.
So,
Well, this has been amazing. Everything Jess has shared has been absolutely incredible. But I do believe that those who are watching, something is going to be established in your life today. And I know Jess would agree with me that we're believing after this podcast that something is going to be permanently established in your life. Maybe it's faith, maybe it's hope, maybe it's trust, maybe it is feeling seen and validated and valued, to know that you're not alone, that you have a purpose, that you have a reason, that this valley is not your destination,
come
but
on.
that you have more to do
Yes.
as long as you're walking in hand with Jesus.
Yes.
Because you may be in a fire today, but Jesus is with you.
So
You may
good.
be on a mountaintop, Jesus is with you. You may be in your darkest moment, Jesus is with you. You may be celebrating the best news of your life, Jesus is with you.
Mm.
Jesus is with you, and you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
And so I'd love to pray for you. I'd love to encourage you and invite you that wherever you are, maybe just take a moment, take a deep breath, take a sip of your coffee or your water, and just be seen by God today. So we're going to pray. God, I thank you, Lord, for those watching. Lord, I thank you for your daughters today.
Yes.
Lord, I thank you for the purpose that's on their life. Lord, that you define them. Their situation, their circumstance, Lord, does not define them. Lord, you see them. You know them. You call them by name. Lord, you're walking hand in hand with them in their season. Lord, whether they're in a season of waiting, a season of difficulty, a season where they feel discouraged or alone, Lord, a season where they're waiting on a miracle.
Yeah.
Lord, a season of coming out of getting the miracle, God. whatever it may be. Lord, I believe that you are establishing them, Lord, to look ahead, Lord, to see the good news that's ahead, to see the hope that's ahead. Lord, as they put their trust in you and as they follow you and as they shift their perspective today, Lord, that they too can have a traceless story. Lord, as they believe, Lord, that it's not just you walking and being in the fire with them, but you're going to see them through.
Yes.
In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Hey, we did good. We didn't bawl our eyes out.
No, actually,
I'm really surprised.
I'm very surprised.
But we did good. And thank you so much for being with us today. And if today's podcast encouraged you, please tell someone. Make sure to share it.
Yes.
On your Instagram, Facebook. That would mean so much to me. And I just want this message to go to whoever needs to hear it. And I said this last week, but if you have your own Traceless story, I would love to hear your testimonies. You can email them to me at tracelessbyjess@gmail.com. But remember, whether you have been through a fire, are currently journeying through its flames, or you are about to head into the furnace, I believe that this podcast is for you and encourage you. But until next time, love you.